Hey everybody, in this tutorial we're going to take a look at taking your poser characters into the Unity 3D game engine via Character Creator 3, where we're going to kind of optimize the mesh and materials and do a couple other things before we finally import it into Unity 3D into an HDRP project. Okay, so what we're going to do first here is make sure that our character has significantly optimized in terms of mesh and materials. Okay, so pay attention to a couple of things here. If I select all the items on my character here, you can see like this forearm sleeve here. We have a bunch of materials. All these different mesh names basically share the same materials. Same for the bodies here. Okay, all these different mesh names have different materials and so on and so forth. And what we want to do here is we want to make sure that we optimize the materials and the meshes. So let's go, for example, and shift select all of the mesh items on our character here, all of these the armor. Okay, we can go ahead and select wireframe on shaded mode here. You can see what it'll look like here. So select a triangle, 147,000, fairly significant, and we probably want to take that down a little bit as well as optimize the materials. So the way we can do that is just go over here to the attributes here, or we can go to polygon reduction object here, or we can go to the InstaLOD menu item up here, and we can select polygon reduction object. Okay, what that's going to do is it's going to optimize the amount of polygons on our mesh that we have selected here. We're going to optimize it by 50%. Okay, you can choose by face count and recommended settings, but by percent we're going to be using here. And make sure you bake the texture, and we're going to select a texture size of 1024. We don't need anything too detailed for exporting into the Unity game engine here for now. Let's just go ahead and use those settings and select apply. Alright, so once the polygon reduction operation has been completed, we can just go ahead and close this down right now. And in your scene manager here, you'll see a number of different items that appear with little invisible. They're all hidden, okay? Now these hidden items are the original meshes for each individual mesh on your character. Let's make sure that we can see here, for example, the shoulder armor, which is right here. This is the reduced one, okay? So we go down here to percentage 50. We can see it's reduced by 50%. And we can see the selected triangle count, 13,502. All right, let's select the original armor. You can see right here, if we make that visible, you'll see this one's 27,010. Okay, so it's been reduced by approximately 50%. So what we want to do is we want to make all of the reduced by 50% meshes visible, and we want to delete all of the other ones here, okay, the originals. So I'm going to control select all of the original meshes, okay, like this right here. There you go, and just go ahead and delete them. And once those are finished deleting, let's take a look at the materials as well. So if we select the shoulder armor, for example, and we go to the materials, you can see it's been merged. Okay, there's a material here called shoulder armor merge. All right, and same thing for the bodies. Remember, we had a big list before. Now we have it all merged into this single material. So everything's been sufficiently optimized. We can shift select and return it back to the normal shading mode here, and you can see it looks fairly decent. Now let's take a look at our character's face here. I'm going to select my character's eyes and go over here to the materials. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure that the eyes, all the eye materials are unlinked, okay? And just make sure that there's no linkage here, okay? If there's any linkage, you want to make sure that you go here to cut, okay? So click this and select unlink material textures, all right? For each one of these mesh names and materials, okay? Right now they seem okay. So let's go ahead then, and we're going to select a couple of poses for our character, just to make sure that the meshes aren't, or the body mesh isn't going to break through the clothing mesh here. All right, not much clothing to break through for the mesh, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at a couple of poses and see what we can come up with here. So I'm going to go over here to my pose section here, and we're just going to choose female poses. I'll actually go into the pose right here. And we're going to choose checking pose. Okay, so these are poses kind of to check if your character is, the body's going to break through the mesh at all. So let's go ahead and select that. Let's do maybe the gesture M1 here, one first. Okay, so this is the pose. We can see that the mesh on the leg and the armor looks fairly good. You can see there's a little slight breakage here on the right chest piece here. Now the way we can fix that is just by using the Edit Mesh tool. Let's just select the bodies here, make sure it's selected in the Scene Manager, and go over to Attributes and Edit Mesh. Okay, now we have a whole nother tutorial that goes into a lot more detail on editing the mesh. I'm just going to do a quick fix here by going over to the Sculpt section, and we're going to use this one here, which is Pull, and I'm just going to click once, and it'll pull it right out of the character's body mesh. Okay. and everything else looks fine and dandy. We can try a couple other poses. Let's go to the content manager. Let's try maybe the run pose. Okay, a very common pose your character is going to be put in. And you can see here, chest piece over here is okay, but over here, same issue. So we can just go ahead and follow the same procedure. Edit mesh, sculpt, and pull it out. One little click, and it'll be done. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. I mean, you can throw in a bunch of variety of poses and check the mesh in different poses, but I think for now we're just going to go ahead and work with this. This should be fine. Okay, so let's take our character back into the original T-pose here. We're going to go into poses, and this motion live, or rather motion plus section over here has a default T-pose. So let's go ahead and double click that and set our character into the T-pose. So we're essentially ready to export into the Unity 3D, or into FBX format rather, and then into the Unity 3D game engine. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go to File and Export and select FBX Clothed Character. Now, since we're exporting to Unity 3D, we're going to use the Unity 3D Target Tool preset. Okay, we do not want to embed the textures. Make sure you have this deselected. We're going to include a couple of motions, custom motions, which I already have selected here. You can load those in by going to the Open tool or Open button right here and just selecting them from here. Now, you want to make sure that your first pose in the list is this 0_ T-pose. Okay, now you can find this in your library, the same T-pose that I showed you before. You want to make sure that you have 0_ and T-pose named like this. Okay, and that's for when you import it into Unity, so the Unity script can determine what file it is and use that as a reference. Okay. So there we have this pose, and we have a motion. It's just an idle motion and a facial expression I've loaded in there. You can move them up and down on the list by clicking the up and down arrows. Again, make sure T-pose is the top of the list. Okay, and then you want to delete hidden mesh. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. Let's go to Export. I'm going to press OK, and let's just export to our desktop here. Where are we? Desktop. Okay, let's create a new folder on desktop. We'll call it Fury Gal. Okay, and we'll just go into there, into that folder, and call her Fury Gal. All right. Always recommended you create a folder for each one of your character exports. And let's go ahead and save that. All right. And once our export is complete, we can close down Character Creator. We don't need to save the project right now. And let's go into our Unity game engine right here. Okay. Now, this is an HDRP project. You can find that by going to Edit and Project Settings, and under Graphics, make sure that you have HD Render Pipeline Assist, HDRP. Okay, set to your right here. All right. And let's go ahead and close that down. Now, what you want to do is you want to import in the Unity script. Now, this Unity script has actually already been imported, but I'm going to show you how to import it. Just go back to your main assets folder here. And when you import in a Unity script, it's going to create the CC assets and the editor folder here, which you see. Okay, now I'm going to provide a link in the description for this download for the script. Okay, and we can find it right here. You'll have this Unity package. Just click and drag it into your assets, basically. And once you do that, it'll create a CC Assets folder here with a README. And if you click the README, you can see it says, put all your character FBX files into this folder. Please, very polite, all right? Here's the Queen folder that we've done from a previous tutorial where we imported into Unity. So what we're going to do is we're going to import in the entire folder into this folder right here. If we go into the Queen, you can see we have a bunch of different stuff. Let's just go into the main CC Assets folder and go to our desktop here. And you can see we have, where is it? Fury Gal, all right? So what we're going to do is, if we go into Fury Gal, you can see we have the FBX file, the textures folder, and the .fbm folder here as well. Okay, so the reason I decided to create a folder for this is so we can click and drag this entire folder into our assets in Unity, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Shabam, there we go. Okay, so it's going to basically import everything in. All right, so once everything's been imported, you'll see the Fury Gal folder right here. And if we double click it, you can see we have a couple of folders that have been generated, including the prefabs, the textures, and the Fury Gal right here. If we go into prefabs, you'll find our Fury Gal prefab has already been generated, okay? Now, this has already been generated because we imported in that Unity scripts, okay? And you go up to Window and see Auto Processing for CC Character. This has also been added, okay, once you import in that Unity script. So, of course, import in the script before you do this. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and just click and drag our Fury Gal into our scene just by clicking and dragging to the hierarchy right there. And you can see our character all nice and gorgeous looking in our scene right here. Now, if we want, we can tweak individual items here. For example, like this shoulder armor. Let's just twirl down the Fury Gal and select her shoulder armor right here. And you can see right there, we zoom in a little bit. We can go down to materials, or rather into the shader here. And if we go down to maybe inputs, we can adjust the smoothness remapping just to kind of adjust the amount of reflectiveness on it. Okay, so if we enhance it like this, we'll get a bit more reflectiveness, as you can see. And then we can actually move that entire range up and down if we want. Okay, just to kind of tweak and get the results that we want. Maybe a little bit of shine will be nice, and we can kind of focus that remapping area right there. Just a nice slight reflection, but not too much. Okay, since it is a skull, and this is a polished skull, then we can figure that out. And we could do the same thing, say for example, for the thigh armor. Let's go down to the thigh armor here. Get some nice reflectiveness on the thigh armor. Let's just twirl around here a little bit. There we go. And just select that just like this. And same thing, go into the shader. And under inputs, we'll find the smoothness remapping. Okay, so you can adjust that. You can see here, especially right here, how that affects the amount of reflection we see on certain metallic surfaces of this whatever it is, leg armor. Okay, we'll just call it thigh armor for now. All right, so you can go ahead and do that in the inputs and adjust and refine however you please. Now, another thing you may want to adjust depending on your character is your character's hair. Whoops, we got a real big close-up there. Let's just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so you can see the hair is, it looks okay, but it's not ideal. There's a little bit of dark stuff in there that isn't in the original. So what we're going to do is select the character's hair here, and we're going to go into the shading right here. The Fury Gal transparency. Let's go twirl that down, and we're going to go down here, and you can see that we have pre-refraction pass, enable transparent depth disabled. Okay, if we enable that, you can see that it changes it a little bit, and then we can adjust the alpha cutoff pre-pass. Okay, and get the different results that we want right here. Okay, so you can really just kind of refine this, adjust it to like the level that you want. Obviously, that's not ideal right there. Something like this would probably be ideal. And you can adjust the post pass as well. Okay, it doesn't really have much of an effect, but the alpha cutoff will also have a little bit of an effect as well. Okay, so just try to adjust that to whatever value you think is correct, and make sure that your surface type is set to transparent, obviously. Okay. Now, certain types of hair may also be affected by the normal maps here as well. So if we go down to the inputs and select our normal map right here, what we can do is we can actually just remove this normal map, remove the influence of the normal map. We can do that by selecting the normal map slider right here and adjusting it like this, okay? So it really depends on, what the kind of look you're going for, something like this, and each individual one varies there, okay? So we'll just take this back down to like this level. And then we have a nice, blonde look on our character, unperturbed by any darkness or anything like that. Okay, so this is kind of the result that we're looking for, and we'll go ahead and work with this. So now let's take a look at the blend shapes and the motions that we imported in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select the base body first. And you can see under blend shapes, we can twirl that down. We have a whole bunch of blend shapes. Let's just get a little bit of a closer look on her face here. So you can see those blend shapes nice and close. Okay, you can see we have, all the different blend shapes. We can adjust the mouth to be wide, raise the inner brow. Okay, these are all the blend shapes that your character has. Nose flank, let's get a bit of a maybe front-on look here a bit better. Okay, and you can, throw these around, blow out the cheeks, do whatever you want. Okay, but these are just all the blend shapes that have been imported with the characters. Okay, and these ones are for, viseme shapes like plosives and, dimple left. Okay, some of them are very subtle. Some of them are more, apparent than others. All right, like the eyes blink, for example. Right. You can have your character blink their eyes. All right, so let's twirl up the blend shapes. Just wanted to show you that there. Let's go back into the Fury Gal folder. And you can see if we open up our Fury Gal animator controller, we have the facial expression in this motion 1. Okay, this has been auto-generated, this animator controller. And if we go into our, if we select like the facial expression here, for example, let's bring this up a little higher here so we can actually see our character's face, since we're focusing on a facial expression right here, and we'll just lay it through a little bit here. Oops, where'd my mouse go? There we go. Let's get a look at the character's face. Okay, this is just a little quick idle motion that I made with the facial expressions included. All right, so we can just go ahead and play that back. You see kind of like an angry look around right there. And then she kind of just has a little bit of a surprised look. And, pretty much just, very simple facial expressions, and it'll loop back into the original motion that we had earlier. Okay. So just a little quick looping animation. We can just go ahead and pause that. Now keep in mind that if you want to adjust any of the FBX data, including the motions, materials, any rigging or retargeting, what you need to do, so for example, for this one, if you wanted to change it to like loop time, for example, it won't have any effect unless we go up here to Window and Auto Processing, and we turn Auto Processing off. Okay, so make sure that you have Auto Processing off, otherwise the script is going to auto process, and we can just go to like select loop time, and then just go ahead down here and apply it. And once that's finished processing, then we can, bring up the character again, zoom in on her face real quick here, and just get a good frontal view here. There we go. And give that a playback. And we'll be able to see the facial expression. Loop time. All right, so there we go. Just make sure, again, that if you want to adjust any of the FBX information, the data, you have to turn auto processing off via the window item right there, okay? This is all we're really doing right here, just adjusting that FBX data, and so on and so forth. You can test your the motion one here as well. This animation, this is just the basic motion the character has without the facial animation. Right, just a simple idle motion. Okay, so that's about it. That's about all I want to show you here. Let's go back to our scene rather here. And if we give it a little playback, we can take a look at our character in the scene mode here, or in the game mode rather. Let's go to the scene mode here, and there you go. She's looking around with her angry expression, and then her surprised expression. All right. This is a Motion Plus file from iClone. All right. So that's about all I really want to show you in this tutorial, guys. Thanks so much for watching. That's how you import your poser characters into Unity 3D via Character Creator 3, optimize them, and get the expressions and everything going. So hopefully check out our forums over at forum.reallusion.com, and I hope to see you in the next video.